The Seattle Kraken, Neil, of the 32 teams that we will have covered, this one kind of excites me the least because there's not a lot here that I could say is positive in terms of the club getting into the playoffs or even pushing for a bubble spot. They were 27th overall in the NHL last season. Lane Lambert replaces Dan Bylsma behind the bench, who was hired a year ago. He only lasts one season. Why him?
That's not a question for me. I have no idea. And I'm not putting him down by saying that. That's all goes back to Ron Francis and the Seattle organization, why they would pick Lane Lambert. He had a decent run in New York with the Islanders. He didn't do a bad job there, but I don't know. They did it quickly, Vic. They did it at the right before, they did it before the playoffs ended, I believe. And so I don't know why.
It's just a situation with them where you have to wonder if this is a club that's being haunted by two things. First of all, the Vegas Golden Knights and how they came into the league making the Stanley Cup final in their very first season. But then the Kraken had a great run deep into the second round. In their second season of the NHL, they have missed the playoffs the last 2 years. And it feels to me like the franchise is fighting this, both of these cases.
Yeah, I got to say, like, I like a couple of things that they did in the offseason, besides the new GM that they put in place in Gaudreau. Replaces Ron Francis replaced himself with Jason Gaudreau. And again, if you ask me why Gaudreau, I would say I have no idea why Ron Francis would step away from being the GM, which is a thing that he's been pretty good at. But I like the Mason Marchment pickup from Dallas. I think that gives him some more firepower up front. I do like also the Ryan Lindgren acquisition as a free agent on the back end. I liked Lindgren a lot when he was in New York. I do think, Vic, that they've got a pretty good defense core. When you talk about Vince Dunn, who's really good offensively, Adam Larsson, Brandon Montour, and now Ryan Lindgren, I think their defense is okay. And I know they didn't do a lot, but they did enough things, and we'll see what Lane Lambert can get out of this group. They're not the worst in the league by far, but they didn't do a lot of exciting things in the offseason.
They also acquired Frederick Gaudreau in a trade with the Minnesota Wild, and they signed goaltender Matt Murray for 1 year, $1 million from the Toronto Maple Leafs. In terms of their RFA, UFA re-signs, we start with the UFAs first. They held on to center John Hayden and defenseman Josh Mahura. And their RFAs of significance, Ty Cartier, left wing, and Capo Kakko, who I think found a home in Seattle after getting out of the pressure cooker in New York. He re-ups for 3 years at $4.5 million EV. There are notable drops. Andre Burakovsky traded to Chicago in the Joe Veleno deal. And then Veleno winds up getting released, winds up signing with the Montreal Canadiens. And Mikey Eyssimont signed as a UFA by the Boston Bruins. I think also, Neil, what's significant is there hasn't been, there's not a lot of fanfare with the offseason moves here. And more importantly, some of these players have to start performing from within the organization that have been there. They've got a little bit of tenure. And I think it's going to be imperative on them to have an upswing this season if this team is going to compete. I don't think they're a wild card team, but if they're going to give it a push, they need guys like Jared McCann to start stepping up a little bit here. Because 2 years ago, McCann came off a 40-goal season. I think surprised a lot of people. And dropped to 29 following year and only 22 last season. And Matty Beniers, Calder Trophy winner in 2023, he's only had 35 goals and 80 points over the course of the last 2 seasons. That's an average of 40 points per season. Even I could figure that out. And And it's not going to get it done for a team that's middle of the pack in scoring. Their power play with Jessica Campbell actually in charge of it in her first season as the first female behind an NHL bench actually dropped from 16th in 23-24 to 23rd last season. So those are all components that need to improve in the 25-26 season.
Absolutely. And you've got to hope, if you're Seattle and their fans, that you can get some career years out of some of these guys. Capo, Matty Beniers, Jaden Schwartz, Mason Marchment prove himself. Shane Wright suddenly show why at one time he was slated to go first overall in the draft, and then he slipped, and he's still never been able to be a regular player, a game in and game out player. As I said before, I think their defense is okay. I don't mind their goaltending with Joey Daccord and Philip Grubauer. And then they've, as you mentioned, they signed Matt Murray, two-time Stanley Cup winner in Pittsburgh, although that seems like decades ago. He's their number 3, as he was in Toronto. Lane Lambert's going to have to come in, change whatever was wrong in the atmosphere with the Kraken last year, and start to put in his way of seeing the game and his systems and get these guys to play a lot better than they did last year.
You like your goaltending?
I don't mind it. I don't hate it. It's not terrible. It's Grubauer, Daccord. It's not great. Okay, you win. It's not good.
Here's my upshot here is I don't play fantasy, but I did look at a couple of things just in terms of how goaltenders were valued. And Philip Grubauer, 2 years ago, was projected to be in 40% of the pools, and last year dropped to 5%. And I don't think he would be in anybody's selection mindset this year as a goaltender. I think he's underperformed there. I think Daccord is okay. I think Murray's a crapshoot. And I think that this is a marginal group between the pipes, to say the most.
You know what, partner? I can't argue with you on that. I said I liked them, and then you made me refocus again. And yeah, that's a place that they're not very good, and they got to be better.
I'm also a little bit more hopeful on Shane Wright because he was the 4th pick in 2022. Did have 44 points last year and was a +4. He plays on a line with Mason Marchment and Eli Tolvanen. I think he can improve those numbers, maybe get up to 60 points this year. And this is another guy that if he could push his way upward, it is certainly going to help make this team a lot more competitive than, at least on paper, I'm seeing them right now.
Yeah, last year was his first full season with the Kraken. And as you said, he got 19 goals, 44 points. He was a +4, which is hard to do on a team that's losing. Before that, he'd only had 5 goals in his career in the 2 seasons that he played in the organization. So he finally broke in last year, but he's going to have to continue to show why he was a number 4 overall pick in the 22 draft.
Just to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, one of the stats that really amazed me with this team last year was Adam Larsson, defenseman, still managed to finish with a +22.
Wow.
On a team that finished the season 24th on team defense.
Yeah, that is amazing. And as I said earlier, their defense is okay. They're not going to lose because of bad defense. They're probably, you've hit the nail on the head. Their goaltending isn't very good, and they're going to have to put some pucks in the net at the other end to make up for it.
You're saying that I'm hitting the nail on the head. This is a good jumping off point for me on Seattle.